We are live. Hello. Welcome
Yeah.
to our discussion of Alloy of Law. Stephanie's here. I should have waited 2 more seconds. I almost waited 2 more seconds. And I was like, I'll put her on when she comes.
But you gave her the chance to be fashionably late.
I did. Yes. Well, Stephanie wanted her own entrance, and she got it. She's looking fabulous today. So,
Thank you.
Perfect. So anyways, thank you for joining us. We're here to discuss Alloy of Law and also 11th Metal, because that is the novella we read this month, which is a prequel to Era 1. So if you're here in the comments, say hey. I don't know if we should start with the 11th Metal, just because it still goes with Era 1, and then we can seg into Era 2. Hi, Em. I'm so glad you're here. Yay. I honestly don't have a ton of things to say about the 11th Metal. This is my first time reading it, but
I just had impressions. I'll also confess I didn't spend a lot of time studying it, but I feel like it's almost like a character. I mean, obviously, I read like some of the foreword and stuff. It was originally written, I think, to go with like a board game or something like that, and to be like an intro to the universe, like the little thing at the front of the instruction book or something.
Yeah, I think it was good for that. He had that in Arcanum Unbounded. It said that like at the end, and I was like, oh, that helps, because after I finished it, I was like, why was this written? Like, it didn't really add any information very much. It was just like,
I think if you're almost like a fan,
it's kind of like a novelty. I thought it was kind of. I mean, I think that for something, I think it was a neat little character study. Like, it shows how even in a relatively short thing, you can build some strong characters. Actually, in some ways, I feel like sometimes you can build stronger characters if it's going to be really short, because you can just, you don't have to worry about how this person can have an arc, because if they're going to have an arc, it's 10 pages long.
Yeah, that's true. Pack it in there. Oh, my sister's here. Hi.
Oh.
She's been reading along with us this whole time, but this is the first live show she's actually been able to.
Oh, excellent.
So that's exciting. You're bummed that 11th Metal was so short. Yeah, yeah. They could have expounded on more of like Kelsier's like growth and that kind of stuff, but I guess it hit.
So how was it? Well, how did you feel about actually getting to see Kelsier again?
Yeah. That was nice, huh? Does anyone else have anything else they want to share about 11th Metal?
Gemmel was a jerk. I mean, I get what he was trying to do, but
was Ruin
maybe not the best approach.
Like, was that just me, or was Ruin talking to Gemmel? Okay.
Oh,
so like he's talking to himself. Sure. The mists are like going away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of interesting. If this was really meant to be like sort of like just like the quick little short intro to the world, that he still dropped those kinds of things, but maybe he kind of did that for the established fans, because that thing gives them something a little bit meatier to say, oh, I caught that.
Yeah, that's probably true. You missed Kelsier. Yeah. My sister was so bummed at the end of the first book. She was like, what?
That broke my heart the first time I read it. I
was like, she's talking about how much she loves Kelsier, and she's texting me, and I was like, oh no. Don't say anything.
Yeah, so for those who really miss Kelsier, you get a few more pages of him.
So that was nice. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add, or if we want to just launch right into Alloy of Law.
Get straight into the dime store Western.
Just in time for Emily to be here.
Hello.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily. I did really enjoy getting Kelsier's backstory, and I agree with your sister, Tiffany. I would have loved a little more, because we only get Kelsier for it's a pretty short time considering how much time we spend with the other characters.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's so interesting.
I mean, the Spook gets to meet him again in book 3.
But not really. Goodness.
Yeah, that was a crazy throwback. When the first time I read that, it was like, what?
Speaking of
Not the
speaking of
Not the same.
speaking of spook callbacks, well, there's not in the 11th Metal, but in the next book, there was certainly a big spook callback. Actually, a couple of them, but one that was kind of hilarious.
Yeah. So I think everyone else has read Alloy of Law before. I think I'm the only one that this is my first time. Victoria was hoping to be with us today, but she's sick, and it was her first time too. So I can't wait to hear what she thinks of it once she finishes it. But I really liked it. I thought it was very fun, very different from Era 1, like total tonal shift. And felt like it was taking itself a lot less seriously. And I think I said on Discord too that I felt like it felt very cinematic. In the way like the fights felt even more stylized, maybe because there's guns and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I can just picture it better. And then also the way that Miles, like, he totally has villain monologues, just like a Bond movie, where he's sitting there and he's explaining to them, and which gives them time to get him while he's standing there explaining what he's doing. So I thought it was really fun.
Yes.
Very campy. It did kind of feel campy, honestly.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yes.
Oh, very campy. Like, it knew what it was. It was the Deadpool of the Mistborn world.
Yeah, I feel like this one has very specific vibes. Because I find the plot less memorable than what I felt reading it. Because I'd forgotten a lot of this, and I just read it at the end of 2022. So,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. But I still really enjoyed it, all that being said. But I just remember like how I felt reading it and how fun it was more than what actually happened.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This one also has like really strong characters. I'd say more so than like in like the first Mistborn book. The characters, they're distinctive characters, but there's so many, you didn't get to spend as much time with any of them. And I feel like they didn't get as much of their time to shine. Whereas, there's fewer characters in Alloy of Law, but they all, like Marcy or Wayne, like they all sort of have, like who they are. Even that butler, you know who he is.
Yes. I think the characters are the standout feature. And for people who have read, of course, the first series, it's like such a new take on the magic. So those are the things that really stand out.
Yeah. I love that everyone, like so many of them, have the combination of Allomancy and Ferrigamy. Like that was just really fun to see how if you only have one of this and one of this, like how that plays together. Like I just thought that was really fun.
Yeah, that's something I really like. I always describe this as the more with less book, or era. Where the magic system it's more, but it's less at the same time. There's no Misborns just using the whatever power is easiest. It's all like really creative. They're more constrained and therefore more creative.
Yeah. I love the whole time bubble thing. That being like a whole new thing. I'm like, this is so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like this one would be such a fun one to see in movie form because there's so much action.
And the characters, like there's just a lot of room for acting because it's less about like this long, intricate, complicated plot that you have to like get all this info out. It's more about like Wayne and Renette, or whatever.
Yeah. I think I was talking with Rich about this before we went live, and I think he mentioned this in our last live also, that Alloy of Law was intended to be kind of like a bridge novella to another series, and as a result wasn't intended to, like, he wasn't sure that he was actually going to continue on with these specific characters. So the book itself feels super contained, and I think that is also why it feels less memorable, because it's not like it's not like there's a bajillion unsolved mysteries at the end like there is at some of the other Mistborn books. So I think that might have something to do with why it's less memorable as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like the thing that's most memorable is, unsurprisingly, things having to do with the characters, and not really, or the magic, the speed bubbles. But and then, like at the very beginning, like Leslie dying. I remember the first time I read it, I was just like, what? Like I just was like, really. There's moments like that, and Wayne, not Wax, excuse me. He's dealing with her death, like the whole rest of the book. So there's a lot of, it's emotional reading in some ways, like character wise. But yeah, for some reason, I think maybe because it's the first book, and we spend so much time with the original Mistborn characters, a lot of the really big reveals are more memorable in the original Mistborn series. But this definitely has its moments,
Oh yeah, it was fun. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say on top of that, like with the characters, I agree, because I remember more like meeting the characters, like especially Steris when she comes in with her marriage contract is one of my favorites.
Steris is so
and
fun.
Then when Wayne shows up, like I remembered more of those moments than what actually happened plot wise.
I mean, Steris probably gets like 10 pages in the whole book.
Yeah.
And yet she's such a memorable character because she's just so Steris in those 10 pages.
I love her. This is a good point too, like in terms of making this into a movie, because it takes place in a shorter amount of time and it's just a shorter volume. I think that makes a difference too.
Yeah, and also like a lot of the detail, like there's intricacies in the magic system, but that's something you could probably show instead of tell, like to demonstrate it instead of having a like narrative about it. It would translate, I think, well, and I think also it has a very simple plot. Like it's a dime store western, is kind of like the plot. It's like this could be set anywhere. A lot of it, maybe not the kidnapping and breeding allomancers part of it.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. It felt very like, it had almost like a Sherlock-y vibe to me too, in terms of them trying to figure out this mystery, and like having Wax and Wayne as a duo, that one of them is so much more serious than the other one, and like it just had that dynamic to me, kind of like a Sherlock and Watson dynamic. That was really fun.
Well, especially the new the new movie version of it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So the ebook I read was like a 10th anniversary edition or something. It had like a special foreword in it, which I thought that's actually really worth reading. I think just if you're interested in books or like just writing in general, because it had like a lot of insights. But one of the things that really struck me, Sanderson mentioned, is like character fatigue, or the concept of it. Like he said, one of the reasons why he pretty much killed everybody off from Era 1 is that it was his opinion that like when series go really, really long with the same characters, people tend to get frustrated and tired with those characters. And they want to see what happens and everything else. They like the characters, but it's just like they drag on and on and on. And so I think one of his goals here was with the fresh start, it's like, okay, we're done with these characters. They all had their story, and now we can sort of reminisce over them, but now we can have all new characters. And I thought that was just an interesting sort of take on just the nature of writing.
Yeah, I like that too. But then I liked still that it did have like callbacks to the characters, where Sazed is obviously Harmony, but then there's like different street names that are like Demu Boulevard, and like different things that are like referenced, or statues so like it was really fun to see like almost like Easter eggy little connections between the first series, but like it is all new people.
And Iron Eyes at the end is
yeah.
I
forgot about this. There's your Spook reference. That's right.
Yes, that's the Spook reference. It was just so hilarious.
I forgot about that.
but it's called High Imperial now, and because Spook became the Lord Mistborn, and an extremely prominent figure, well, like the old, I guess at that point he was probably the only Mistborn, I guess, other than Marsh, who probably had other things to do.
Probably.
You know, now, well, they said like in this book it says like a lot of it was about imitating the you know, the mannerisms of the Lord Mistborn. Like a lot of culture was patterned after Spook, essentially,
Right.
and it's just hilarious how and then I love how Wayne says I can it makes my head hurt.
Me too, honestly, a little bit. What were you saying about Marsh, Christy?
Oh, I was just saying Iron Eyes at the end, another callback to the original trilogy.
Oh, that, especially as an epilogue, that is just so, well, especially because nobody has seen a Mistborn in like hundreds of years or however long it's been, and then here shows up, you know, a Steel Inquisitor.
This is something my sister's still bitter about from Era 1. She's like, why did we leave him in charge of all the people? Oh, that's funny. So I know all of you guys have read on. I just want a yes or no to this question, so it's not truly spoilery. Are we going to see more Marsh? Because I want to see more of him. It's just a yes or no.
Gosh,
I don't remember.
Okay. So Rich has that look on his face.
I'm actually trying to remember.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, if you do, it's very little.
Okay. I was just wondering because he's here. I'm like, are we going to see more of him? Because no one else is still alive. I mean, obviously Sazed is, but you know, when they talk about like Spook or Elend or like they're not talking about people who are still alive. Yeah, I know. That's the smile, Emily.
I'm thinking about other things coming up in the future with an evil grin for sure.
Yeah. He does that all the time when I say something. He's like, he just gets that look on his face where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm traversing into spoilery territory. We'll talk about this later.
You can talk about it as much as you want right now. That's great.
You just won't have as much to add. I got spoiled for one thing already because someone sent me a reel of something that I wasn't supposed to know that was in Secret History. And I was like, oh, I haven't read the Secret History yet.
Yeah, you're not going to want to share that one. Anything in Secret History is...
Oh, I'm not. I'm not sharing it. But I was like,
now.
I haven't read Secret History, so I didn't know that.
Oh no.
They feel bad.
This is one of those things. It's also why I tend to avoid. I mean, first, I hate to say this because I love reading other people's reactions, and I try to be very, very careful not to spoil them. But at the same time, it's like why I tend to. I'll post my thoughts while I'm reading, but it's like I don't want to interact with anybody who's read something before, or even if they haven't read it before, just because they'll figure something out before I figure it out, and then it feels like a spoiler, even if it isn't actually one.
Yeah. I'm always like careful because I'm like, what if I respond to this in a way that like shapes what they think of the rest of it? Yeah, so I totally get that. So,
harkening back to some of the things you guys were saying earlier, I really liked how he takes like a fresh twist on a lot of the things that you would expect. Like, obviously, if there's allomancers, they're going to be consuming metal in some way, but the fact that he uses whiskey instead of just like pure alcohol was a really fun like twist. And then another one, you expect that, you know, Wax, you know, he's just going to, you know, ditch the new life at some point and go back to his old life. But he ends up kind of coming up with a hybrid life where he can still be a lawman, but the city needs even more lawmen than the Roughs did, you know, even so. I really like how he kind of plays with your expectations, and he goes a little deeper than just like the fun, refreshing romp that it could be. Like, he just takes it a little deeper at times, which I really like.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked that too. I thought that was interesting too, the commentary of like, oh, well, there's actually more lawmen in the roughs because it has a reputation of being rougher. But like this stuff's happening in the city too.
Yeah.
Also, can I just say from like my job perspective, I love that the big
Sorry.
So true. From a job perspective, I love that insurance fraud was at the center of it.
Oh, I know. I was like, are you serious right now? This is where we're going with it?
Which I totally forgot about. I just completely, it left my mind and it was like, aha.
Yeah, but not one pole was harmed in the making of this book.
This is true.
Not one pole. Or deer. I don't remember there being any deer.
Yeah, that's true too. Or hail.
Yeah.
There
was mist, though. There was mist. I don't know. That could cause some accidents. You can't see.
Be an active.
Yeah, well, actually, most of the incidents happened during the mist.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Didn't see that coming. Actually, I truly did not think that Wax's uncle was like behind all of this. I was actually very surprised. I was like,
a fun reveal.
It was. I was like, oh, there's actually still a really good twist in this that I didn't see coming. Maybe other people did, but I'm really bad at solving mysteries, so I absolutely did not see it coming.
I feel like that one tends to surprise people.
Yeah. It was really fun.
I can never guess where Brandon Sanderson is going. So like all of his twists were twists to me, but I've read all his books many times, so you know I'm not surprised anymore. But the first time, yes.
You know, an interesting theme that came up in this one, and it comes up, I think, in a bunch of places in Sanderson's writings, is sort of like the family duty thing, like the
yeah.
So like Wax coming back to become the head of the family, he struggling with going off and solving mysteries versus keeping his house running and all the thousands of people who depend on him. Also, at the end, the whole Meracy versus Theris, you know, the relationship for love versus the, you know, the sort of more business side of it or whatever. Those sorts of names came in, and you definitely see those with characters like Dalinar, maybe a little bit with like Kaladin, and you see like that whole having to choose between, you know, following your dream and, you know, the duty to family and responsibility and all that. I thought that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that is. That's a really good point. Adds like a little bit of depth to it. Like Chris was saying.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting to see how the religions have developed as well.
Yes, so many of them.
The path being a simple religion versus
And we've still got the Church of the Survivor, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like of course I'm a survivorist. You know, it's the place to be.
Yeah.
I love how it's called Survivorist now. It's not Church of the Survivor. It's Survivorist, which reminds me of, you know, the Survivor TV show. That's what it sounds like to me.
We also have a couple of Trell references in this book as well.
I noticed that, which is really fun. Sayzed would be proud. Well, he probably is proud, I guess. I guess he can see it.
So I love the Sayzed "You're welcome" bit when he stumbles on his chest in the middle of the fight with his guns in it, and Sayzed just says, "You're welcome."
I loved that. I loved that whole exchange too. As someone who is a very religious person, who seeing like the interaction where he's like, well, why aren't you helping? Why aren't you doing anything? And he's like, I did. I sent you to help.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes there's a lot of people who are like crying out for God to help, and there are times where he comes through miraculously and does things. But I think that there's also times where he's like, yeah, you know why this bothers you so much? It's because I want you to do something about it.
Help me help you.
Yeah, I really liked that. whole interaction.
Yeah, well, and it actually is interesting because there's a little bit in this book about sort of the dilemma of like what's the if you got to be God for it's a couple of centuries, what's the right thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
Or 1,000 years, like the Lord Ruler.
So much power.
He always has some interesting, like, moral kind of pondering.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love
it was
that.
just a little bit. If he had asked for more help, would he have gotten more help? Maybe. He only asked for a little bit. Oh, that's so fun.
That's a funny take. I didn't think of it that way.
That's true.
Like when Harmony was like, it's interesting having the like god of a religion literally talking to his adherents. That's really interesting. I'm not sure if I'm sure I've seen it before, but it's just not very common that you have a character who's like praying like Wax does to Harmony, and then Harmony talks back to him and like explains his reasoning, So that was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. You don't see that often in fantasy. Yeah, there's the quote.
Well, and the other thing about it is that if we didn't have sort of a privileged perspective from the first books and everything, if somebody just started here, you wouldn't necessarily know that was actually Harmony, and this wasn't just something Wax was making up in his head.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's true.
Because there was nothing overt about any of that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
So I found like that's the thing, like with epigraphs and stuff. Whenever Sanderson wants you to know that it's the Sazed talking, he always sticks, I think, at the end of everything he says.
Yeah, that's the giveaway.
Yes.
Oh yes, the appearance of the earring was super fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And how
Another fun little thing.
So does anybody remember where he got it?
You just read it, Stephanie. I was hoping you would remember. I finished it 2 weeks ago. Oh, of course. He's ready with the quote. He wasn't that mean. Okay, good.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
My hands are
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, when he converted. Okay. Em already knew.
So the woman, one of the faceless immortals. I totally missed that. I don't know what that means.
I do. Yeah, I missed the faceless immortals thing. Well, that's
you have to have like a special earring to be a Pathian and talk to Harmony, or can it just be like
yeah, I remember that now.
He had to put it when he prayed. He would put in the that.
Yeah,
but I didn't remember how like it mentioning how he had like received it.
Yeah,
saying one of the faceless immortals. That's super interesting. I wonder if that's gonna come up again. Rich is like,
I feel like you need a little twisty mustache for that.
Oh my gosh.
And that's why I feel bad for even pointing it out.
No, I think it's fun. Because I don't think that's like a spoiler. Like it's also something like we know exactly what it's talking about. So
yeah.
Well, and I wasn't the one who brought it up.
That's true. So you shouldn't feel bad. Oh, that's really interesting. Everyone else has read it except me, so.
I'm curious. Everybody here, so Tiffany, you haven't read Shadows of Self. Has anybody, or in chat, like I don't know who here hasn't read Shadows of Self? So the next book will be all first for everybody. I mean, obviously for Tiffany.
M, actually, I think it might be for M also, because I think that she read Mistborn Era 1 for the first time with us.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Excellent.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, and my sister. She's like me.
Excellent.
Be first for her.
Yeah, so I don't want to overly set expectations. The next
too.
one's, I think, honestly, the next book might be my favorite book in Arent too.
Mm.
I'm excited.
I'm excited to see which one I think, since this is my first reread.
Okay.
Oh, okay, it's your first reread. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you read all the way through The Lost Metal, Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm looking
Arent
forward to
too?
Lost Metal. Because I've read all the Stormlight books so far. So I'm excited for the Lost Metal.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, well, I'm also looking forward to Secret History when we get to it, which again should not be read until after Bands of Mourning.
Yes, I think we have it scheduled the same month as the Lost Metal for that reason.
Yes, we do. Yeah. No, you've got it just right.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then I think next month we're reading Allomancer Jack, which is really fun because I don't know if anyone else reading this for the first time noticed when there are these like newspaper things, like there's excerpts. And so I'm guessing that's what Allomancer Jack's is. It's like some of those
I actually haven't read it, but I think that's what it is they compiled everything. So it's like a serial that's been compiled.
I feel like
I
thought it was longer though. I think it might be
Was it?
longer. I can't remember for sure, but I feel like it might have been longer.
I will confess, I always skip those sections. I'm kind of looking forward to actually reading it.
There was one that I thought was hilarious that I caught this time around. There was like an excerpt about an election, and the leader, I don't remember what the medal was, but he like couldn't be influenced, and they elected him because they liked that. And it was like,
well, so he was a copper. He was a copper misting.
Yes, thank you.
That comes up in the plot of this, in the main plot of Alloy of Law. It's mentioned in passing.
Yeah.
But
I love just like some of the ads in these papers were super fun too. Like the one that's like relief from your pains. Mistress Halleck's Allomancer has opened a new soothing parlor. And it's got like this whole thing. It's so fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Super
After
fun.
here, they just should read everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I am missing the epigrams a little bit, but.
Oh yeah.
And Emily has not read The Lost Metal. She's read through Bands of Mourning.
Excellent.
So that will be fun.
I feel like it's only an American, a god created in America who would prioritize human freedom above all else. It just cracks me up that that's what Harmony is most concerned with. I'm trying to give the most amount of people choice as possible, and that's what he like arranges things to be like. It's like, that's such an American god.
The emphasis on free will.
Yes.
So
freedom being the most important thing.
I forget which Radiant Order was that. It's not the Stone Wards, but it's because it's the one that has the Elf Caller power and the Stone Ward power, but I forget which one it is. I'm sorry, I don't want to dump spoilers for. I know exactly which character I'm thinking of, but I obviously don't want to dump that.
I kind of wondered too if Sazed prioritizes freedom over everything else as a god because of how he lived under the Lord Ruler. When that was kind of the god ruling the world, he's like, well, people didn't have the freedom to do what they wanted or to choose what they wanted. So he goes in the opposite direction when he makes his choices.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah, well that's so there. I've got a March quote for that.
Here we go. Harmony has particular views about how things must be done. I do not always agree with him. Oddly, his beliefs require that he allow that. I love that. Oh, that's perfect.
I kind of like that since Sazed is like really he was human, so it's kind of like it makes sense. He knows that
he was also
go ahead.
He was a freedom fighter, like a revolutionary freedom fighter.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was part of the rebellion. I love too. There's like 2 quotes in here that have the same vibe, but one of them is Wax and one of them is Marcy. And one's at the beginning of the book and one's at the end of the book. But Wax is saying where is this? When he's fighting Breton, I think. He says, "Harmony, protect us from small-minded men with too much power." And then later, Marcy says, "Why is it that small-minded men must destroy that which they know is better and greater than they?" That was interesting, like the small-minded men multiple times.
So true.
Well, and it's also the dangers of power too. Like that's,
Yeah.
and I guess that's also like say something like the Lord Ruler had all this power and he thought to impose, like the Lord Ruler is like the ultimate of order, above all, and so Harmony, well, he's got that's that whole. Well, we had this discussion, but the whole preservation ruin dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because there's a time and a place for order.
Yes.
And where it's really important that you need to do what you're told. And then times where freedom is more important. So there's definitely like a balance there, just like with preservation and ruin.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and it's well, I'm thinking I'm thinking of an epigraph I read in a different series, but there's also something that you kind of get a little bit, you get a tiny taste of in this book is because Harmony holds preservation and ruin. You get a hint of his internal conflict. Like, he doesn't want to do too much, and that may get played on a bit more.
So he doesn't want it to become imbalanced within himself, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so harmony is his virtue. So it's like essentially the balance between preservation and ruin, which in theory is kind of almost like inaction.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe another book or two we can talk about it more. Not that this really gets directly expounded on, but it really makes me think about the original shattering of Adonalsium and what the motivations might have been behind that and so on. Because you sort of see like so much of the books of the different series are conflicts between the shards, and them being out of balance, and then Harmony sort of is more about inaction and really makes you wonder the more things are brought into balance, it becomes a little bit more almost like Taoist or something, like just sort of just like flow like water kind of a mentality. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Allowing for free will versus requiring subservience, like the Lord.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely what he's getting at.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a really interesting point you made about inaction, Rich. Like, yeah, because that was the mistake of the previous Lord Ruler, that Harmony knew when he was doing too much, he was ruining things, even if he wasn't trying to. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
No, Emily's asking, did we get the story of the shattering? And we did not. You only get hints, like in epigraphs here or there. I have theories, and some of it's based upon Sazed, I think, kind of gives you ideas. And I believe that Dragonsteel is supposed to be the story of that whenever it gets released in its in its true form.
It's true.
Because there's like a Dragonsteel Prime, which I think has been released, or it's coming out, or one or the other, but that's not going to be the actual story.
I couldn't remember either, because I know that like it's also referenced in the Stormlight books.
Oh, absolutely.
So the fact that like there's both elements, it's like you just piece together some things and then have ideas. But I couldn't remember if I'd read anything more concrete or not.
No,
or where I'd read it.
Thoughts. I don't know how much I want to say now. Maybe another book or two we'll chat a little bit about.
All right, put it in your notes, Rich. So
I had a actually pet peeve in this book that I just, because it comes up several times, and it would irk me every time. And that's every time Wax goes to shoot somebody, it always mentions he pushes on the bullet to make it that much more powerful. And I just, it's like, in the time it takes for the sound to travel from the gun to your ear, or the nerve impulse to go up your arm and into your brain, the bullet is probably already coming out the other side of your target and going 1,000 miles an hour, and you really think pushing on it's gonna, well, that'll make that shotgun blast really lethal, I don't know. It's...
Maybe if it's at the point where
in our world, the guns work perfectly fine, at killing people, and nobody's got any magic. So I don't know. It was a fun thought, I guess, but
it
just keeps coming up, and it's just like every time I read it, it's like, I can see like after you shoot somebody, if you like push him over, like Miles or whatever, or the gunshot doesn't do anything, but if you pump him full of lead, maybe you can throw him across the room or something.
Missed opportunity.
I know there was a scene too where I think Wayne saw that Wax was about to be shot, and he created a speed bubble, and they could see the bullet. And I was like, "Really? How? That was fast."
If you did it before.
Yeah.
Maybe there was. Yeah, I remember there being a case where there was already bullets in the air, and it happened to, like, you could see it come up, hit the bullet, go zipping across, and then slow down again. That I can see, kind of, but yeah, it just. Yeah, bullets are pretty fast.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Like, does he have more like instinctual ability to be able to do it with the gun? Like, maybe he does.
Maybe.
I mean, if you're a burning ATM, I would say, but
yeah, good point.
It was weird to me that there were no like actual like Misborns in this book. I'm this is weird that like everyone just has like the one. So like this point, burning ATM, like I guess it has some value if people are shooting guns at you, but like I was just like, oh. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, nobody has any ATM because Calcier destroyed it all.
Yeah, that's true.
or whatever that Ellen didn't destroy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did find myself flipping quite a bit in this book to like the table in the back, because now we have all these like Furukami abilities as well that I'm like, oh. Okay, because it explained all of them every time Sazed used them, and now I'm like, oh, they only have one thing, so I have to pay a little bit more attention.
Right. So leading into that, have you thought about what combo you would want if you were Twinborn?
That's interesting. I haven't.
That's a cool idea to think about.
Well, it's kind of hard to not go with what Miles had, but I didn't really give much thought to it. Because shoot me if you want, it's not going to bother me.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, from a practical point of view, like, here and now, some of the stuff would be like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool, but then, like, the one that stores warmth, it's like, when it's 100 degrees outside, I could cool myself down. And then,
actually,
like, the computer, I wouldn't need caffeine. I could just be awake.
The wakefulness one hit me, because there's the one that you can store and retrieve wakefulness. So it's like, so you're having trouble falling asleep at night, you can store your wakefulness and fall asleep, and then the next day when you're falling asleep in the middle of a boring meeting, you can tap it, and then you can be wide awake.
Right?
Oh, man.
Or store it if you drive to miss the meeting, whichever. It goes either way.
Yeah.
Oh, Emily says she'd want to be a soother as a teacher.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I love
that. For yourself or for the students? That's the question.
Self-soothing. This is a good point too that Emily said with there not being any Mistborn where we're like, oh, it was a rare skill, but we had so many of them as main characters.
Yeah.
Like that's actually
That's
true.
a good point.
That is a very good point.
Yeah, well, and like where like Spook was always feeling kind of left out because nobody really needed him because you had 3 Misborns, running around everywhere.
Yeah.
Now but in Era 2, he would have been, on top of the game.
Yeah.
Even before they made him a Mistborn.
Yeah, that's true.
So true.
A mist cloak becoming a mist coat. Yeah.
Yes.
I love the little changes like that. Like Christy talking about taking the medals and like whiskey, like just different things that were a fun transition.
Yeah.
And of course, needing the mist. Oh, Emily said both. She wants to soothe herself and her students. Why limit her? She can do both.
I think I would want copper because then I'd be able to tell whether I like the idea of knowing that I'm not being influenced by somebody else, but also especially because storing memories. I really like that because I have a terrible memory. So I kind of like that. I know you can
want
just
copper for both.
Yeah, exactly.
Or relive so many like good memories, be able to pull them out whenever. That would be cool.
I know we can write things down in our world and it's fine. So we don't technically need it, but it would just be nice to just have it stored.
Or like throwing away your bad memories, maybe.
Yeah. I am not going to save this memory.
I wouldn't mind slowing down time so I can get more stuff done.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
So actually, no. Well, actually, I can think of a Sanderson book where throwing away bad memories is a key plot point. But but aside from that, I can think of some sci-fi books where that's sort of getting rid of your bad memories is sort of, or even good memories for that matter, is sort of a key idea that's explored.
Yeah. And all the knowledge, Christy, you could just like look at pages of a book and you don't even have to have read them. You could just store them and then you could just go back. You don't have to worry about they went back to the library, whatever. Like it's there.
Oh my
you
God.
just tap it whenever you want it.
I would love that.
It would make
think about it
too. Everything.
When you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking like how when you store your memories in a copper cloud, you forget them. So you could we could have this discussion, store away all our memories of the book, and then read it again for the first time.
You can experience it for the first time. Oh, Stephanie, you're going to love this. Throwing away bad memories is not a good idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so true.
And
Sandy is right as well.
Sean would disagree with you on that.
Yeah, I was thinking more of a like, if they're getting too overwhelming, you could like compartmentalize them away. Yeah. But I agree, like throwing them away would not be good.
Those times when you're falling asleep at night and you remember that awkward thing you said one time.
Yes.
I don't need to remember that.
Yeah, that would be a nice moment to throw that away.
Yeah, I'm reading Rhythm of War right now and watching a slow motion train wreck in progress with that theme to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Slow motion train wreck.
I'm finishing up the one with I don't have it here. The one with pancakes. Dang, what's her name?
Edge Dancer.
Edge Dancer.
I'm finishing Edge Dancer.
Yeah. The pancakes. We all knew. Exactly.
Yeah, we all knew. Yeah, that's really all you had to say.
Pancakes make you awesome.
Yes.
Pancakes are awesome.
Time bubbles helping with awkward moments.
Yes.
So true.
So really what we're all saying is that we would use metal to like help us get past awkward moments in our life.
Yes.
Hey, zipper's down. No, it's not.
No, it's not. There's something in your teeth. What do you mean? I love that this is how we want to use it. We're like, we're not going to save the world. We're not going to do anything big. We just want to take care of
Sometimes it's okay to be a normal person.
Not everyone needs to save the world.
Yeah.
Costume changes are like half of what Wayne uses it for.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite parts of the book, is how often he would change things, and the moment when he's the old lady and he's like, there's no respect anymore. It reminded me of Howl's Moving Castle with like Sophie being turned into like an old lady by the witch. And I was like, it was so fun.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, see, I would use this for time bubbles for sure. Like I get longer time with like the people that I want to be with longer.
Yes.
Because all my family lives really far away. Including my older sister. She lives like, I don't even know, 18 hours away probably.
Yeah. So see, like even without saving the world, I mean, those are still such huge moments. You could still use it for like revolutionary things, but maybe not, things that would make the news or what have you.
Yeah.
So
she's got to correct me. It took me 16 hours to get to my in-laws' house that was 2 hours away from her. So that's why I said 18. Still need to read Dawn Shard.
Dawn Shard is so fun, and yet it feels so optional in some ways. But it's also it's optional, but kind of not optional in some ways.
Dawn Shard is fun, yeah. But I get that beginning of the year teacher tired for sure.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many teachers I've talked to in the last week who have beginning of the year teacher tired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that reverses things. I love how he had things that you just turn inside out and like, yeah.
And his lucky hat.
Yeah.
He's like, why did you have to shoot him in the head? That was my hat.
I love the lucky hat thing. I mean, he says something at one point along the lines of like a hat like makes or breaks a man or something like that. And he's like, no wonder these people are in a bad mood. Look how terrible their hats are.
Also his accents, like he just puts so much thought into the accents.
I thought that was really cool, his ability to like take little, he's like, and I can add just a little bit of this accent, and then like I was like, he's all goofy and hilarious, but honestly a genius if you can do that and recognize the tiny nuances. Well,
honestly, I thought that like some of that stuff, like how does Sanderson come up with this stuff? Because it's just like so clever.
It really is.
Like to add that sort of character dynamic, like these little things about characters that they have their little quirks that are just so quirky.
Oh, I love
like
this
Steris.
Steris is so fun. I can't wait to see more of her. Marcy thinking her ability was like not good for anything, but they couldn't have done it without her. I love that.
Yes. She is such a good character.
She is.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoy her.
And I like the friendship dynamic too. I think it was so fun. A perfect balance.
So what did you think at the end when Marcy was like hinting at Wax like, I like you, and then he went with Steris?
I was kind of sad. I was like,
I was kind of surprised, honestly, because that's a pretty big. I kind of get why, but at the same time, like that was like that. That's very much the duty versus, because they're really, and there's no reason in the book not to go with Marcy.
Do you think it was like he was afraid of actually like losing someone he cared about? Again, like he didn't have the same care for Steris that he did for Marcy, and she reminded him of Leslie in some ways.
That's
so
true.
I wondered if that was why.
It would have been a more thoughtful relationship with Steris, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it said something like it would be different. So I think there's something to that. I think I'm in the minority that, like, I love Marcy, but I was really happy that he went with Steris. But I'm also one that doesn't like Vin and Ellen together, and everybody else does.
Yeah, I think I was really surprised the first time I read it, but when I was rereading it, I was like, he's right about the age gap. Like, there's a very large age gap, and as well in experience. And the way Marcy like hero worships him, it just might have been an uncomfortable relationship. I could see that.
That's true. That she had studied him in school.
Yes.
Was a weird dynamic. That's a good point. Em thinks it was a mistake, and Emily said she was surprised and disappointed at first. I still think that Marcy and Wax are actually going to end up together. That's my headcanon. We'll see if I'm right. But I think that it's like, he's not actually married to Steris yet. They're talking about getting married, but I think he's not going to actually end up with her permanently. I think he'll probably end up with Marcy, but I could be wrong.
Interesting.
Ooh, good point by Sandy.
That is a good point, I guess, with the age gap and him training her and talking to her about different things.
If this was a YA romance and the age gap wasn't quite as severe, then it's really common for like the teacher and the student to kind of get together. But this is not young adult romance, and it is a giant age gap.
It is true that, well, that would balance him out more because she's very different. I want Marcy and Wayne to hook up. He did make some comments to her, so
he really likes her a lot. So
he thinks she's
but
pretty.
What about Renette?
Yeah.
She does not like Wayne, so I would be very surprised.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Em says if he hadn't committed to Steris, Marcy would have time to grow into the relationship. Is her thought. But Sandy agrees with Christy, the age dynamics.
Yeah. That would be so awkward. Like, I like you. I studied you in school.
I know. You are like,
let's get together.
Let's date. Okay. Also, remember in our last live show, Dia mentioned that she read somewhere that there were baby Colas, so that they were breeding.
Oh, yes.
It was mentioned in here. Oh, this person has Colas blood.
Yes, I didn't catch that the first time I read it.
Me neither.
It does, but it also, that actually is explained. I didn't realize when I was responding to her, of course, it would have been spoilers, but it actually says that Stazid changed the Colas so that they could have children.
Oh, okay.
So he changed how they reproduced.
Okay.
So it wasn't a mistake.
No, it actually wasn't a mistake. He tried to make some alterations. I was actually thinking the same. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And then Renette he has a bad for it, but Renette was crushed for Marcy.
That's funny.
Anyway, sorry, Rich. Continue.
No, I was actually M's Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes.
Yeah.
So I was actually thinking of that when you guys were talking about the age difference. They go, when I was a kid, I remember studying you in school.
I had a poster of you on my wall. Wouldn't it be weird? It goes like if we see Marcy's room, and it's like she's got posters of Wax and Wayne all over her wall.
Well, that's like the Law and Order episode right there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be awkward.
It really
We
would.
wish the best for Marcy. We really do.
I really do. I love Marcy.
I do too. I think she's
really But I'm happy they aren't a thing in this one.
Stephanie would have found that very cringe.
You're making fair points.
I think I'm just a Steris fan. So I'm happy he chose her.
I'm just wondering, would Steris be happier with someone else? She's not emotionally attached to him. So that's why I'm like.
Well, and then there was one, I don't even remember what happened, but some action thing happened. And he was like, Steris looked slightly aroused. And it's like, she liked something about him that he did.
I think she just liked the danger.
Yeah. And it was surprising to him because it was like emotion.
I'm not getting attached to Marcy. Look what happened to Leslie. I was devastated when I read that because I was like, oh, I love this dynamic of like a husband and wife.
I know.
Boom. And then I went on Discord and Victoria said the exact same thing.
That really was a devastating shock. That's what I mean. This book really has its moments. The moment when Wax chooses Steris and the moment when Leslie dies, I was just like, wow. Wow. Crazy.
My sister. The spreadsheet from the organization, the lack of emotion. Although my sister does have emotion. She's more emotional than Steris, I think, but she doesn't make decisions based on emotion.
Is Steris maybe, is she on the spectrum maybe?
That's what M just said. She gives me that vibe.
Okay.
But Emily says she thinks of her as more of like a type A.
Oh, the neurodivergent. I missed that. Sorry.
I'm not without my faults as my previous.
Yes, it just reminds me of Sheldon and Amy in The Big Bang Theory. Their whole relationship contract. They have to have everything in writing.
That contract was hilarious, though.
Yes.
Especially when it kept going on and on and on.
And 8 months is an acceptable engagement. Not too fast, but not too slow.
Well, now that you've rescued me from a dangerous situation, it would be acceptable to progress our relationship more quickly.
Yes. I love her so much. And I'm such a planner. I think I relate to her more. Yes. Or there's that one reel from that guy, Joel somebody, and he's like, I hate it when people are like, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Like, no, I'm already there. We're crossing it now. And it's like, it's so true.
Have you seen the one where it's like, oh, go with the flow? Where is the flow? What time is the flow coming? What should I wear to the flow?
That's funny.
How long are we going to be in the flow? When do we get out of time? Yep. Relatable.
It's so true.
I love it.
Oh, man.
So yeah, Steris so relatable.
Yes. Oh, what did you guys think about? Oh, go ahead.
I think it's just the opposite of harmony. But go ahead, Christy.
I was just going to say, when Wax realized that his uncle was not planning to build an army of Allomancers, he was planning to breed one. That I feel like that really stepped up Wax's interest in getting Steris back. Up until that point, he was kind of like, oh, she's probably, But I guess at that point, he was like, I guess if she's planning to breed with her, she's probably safe. But I felt like that was a turning point.
Yeah, because her honor was on the line.
Yeah.
Well, like, and Miles getting mixed up on all this is sort of like, I mean, that's extremely utilitarian. Well, I'm trying to change the world order. It's like, by doing what?
By doing what?
Enforced breeding program. That sounds
such ick.
Familiar. Yes, ick.
Yeah.
It is very ick. Way more ick than Wax and Marcy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Any other thoughts anyone would like to bring up?
On that pleasant note, we'll conclude.
Yeah, I know. I know. What a way to stop what we're talking about, this breeding program.
I shouldn't have saved that for the end. Sorry.
No,
way to go, Christy.
I can quick look for a Wayne joke or something.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
It's not getting shot that takes talent. Oh, it's avoiding the shot that takes talent.
I like this. So this would be, we could have a 30-minute discussion on this.
30 minutes.
I'm not proposing that we do, but I thought this was so interesting.
Not really.
I love to see like Dalinar facing off with Wax over this topic.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That would be a fun side story.
Yeah, that's like totally
A mashup.
Yeah, like
who
total
needs
opposite thing.
O's?
He's yeah.
Funny.
I don't want to spoil anything if somebody hasn't. I was gonna say something, but I was like, maybe not. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
not everyone's read Stormlight on here. I know.
No. We don't actually get into that, but the topic itself is because that's something I also like about Sanderson. Is he's not afraid to explore these thoughts from all sorts of different perspectives, and just dive into it and say, well, let's put that there. Let me, in this other book, I'll throw out the exact opposite perspective on the same topic.
Yeah, I think that's something that's so interesting about him is that he's never. I don't usually feel like he's saying this is the only way to do or look at things. It's like we're just going to explore this whole thing, like from all different areas, and you can make your own conclusions as to what you think worked or didn't work.
Well, and he'll also, I like that now I'm thinking of Attack on Titan, but he'll explore these ideas and say, here, if you do it this way, here's what's going to go wrong, and if you do it the opposite way, here's what's going to go wrong, and if you try to find that compromise in the middle, here's what's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
We don't live in a perfect world. There is no perfect solution.
Yes.
There might be a right answer for the right time, but
Yeah, it's true. M's dying on this hill.
I can definitely ship Wax and Marcy. So
I did the whole book, to be fair, because I can't see them, and because I can't see them, it was easier for me to forget about the age gap. It's easier for me to forget that Wax is older, so much older.
I wouldn't have been mad about it.
Yeah.
For sure. I just prefer Steris.
I think
they do also seem like they'd be cute together.
But it's interesting, it's also why, there's certainly unhealthy relationships out there, but I don't think it's not the backgrounds or whatever of the individuals that make relationships work or not work. It's a lot about just sort of the dedication, the investment, and everything else. Like a little bit of what Wax just says there. It's sort of, there isn't one right way or wrong way to do a relationship, or with this dynamic, there's no way a relationship can work. I don't think that's not true. Sanderson isn't a big romance writer, but he does have some relationships in his books that are from different backgrounds, and they've got things that work and don't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the problem, especially with age gap stuff, is when it's like a predatory kind of thing, when the other one's so young and so naive that they're getting taken advantage of and that kind of a thing. So it's yes, I am dying on this.
Maybe
I feel
like on second read, I feel like he really wants Marcy to be like a partner with him in his work, and he's afraid of what happened last time when his partner was also the person that he loved most in the world and was hooked up with. So maybe
he wants to keep Marcy expendable.
Definitely a partner.
That isn't predatory at all.
You don't usually see cops marrying each other if they're partners,
Yeah.
But I just
you can't. You can be less objective, right? You would have to be not objective at all.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? When you love the person,
Yeah.
I actually agree with this, because I'm not someone who usually gets invested in romances in books at all, because I'm really picky about it, and so I feel like a lot of I don't say that I love all of the romance that Sanderson writes, but I feel like some of his romance feels more realistic as opposed to just big splashy romantic gestures. It feels more real world, which is something that I appreciate about it. So
yeah.
No, I've mentioned this before. I feel like when I know couples that have been together for 10, 20 years or whatever, and I ask, well, how'd you meet or whatever, it sounds like something Sanderson would write.
Yeah, definitely.
So true.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I guess we'll wrap up here because we've been going for a little over an hour now. And here I was thinking, maybe we won't have as much to talk about.
I was afraid this dime store Western wouldn't have much meat to it.
But apparently it does. So next month, well, I guess this month we're reading Shadows of Self and Alamancer Jack, the novella. And we'll be getting together October 5th, I think. I think that's the first Saturday in October, and we'll be doing noon instead of 1 p.m. this time, but it will still be the first Saturday of the month. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to chat about Shadows of Self in the meantime, you can head on over to Discord because I got channels for that. So I think that's all.
Please do. It's such a fun book.
It's a thank you. Thank you guys for being here today. And thank you for everyone in the comments. This was super fun. And we'll see you again next time.